Kazakhstan's investment climate is becoming increasingly favorable, stated Gregory Lecomte, head of the Central Area Unit of the OECD. According to him, one of the key drivers of this improvement has been the rapid digitalization of business processes. Earlier this year, during the Kazakhstan-Italy Investment Roundtable, the president tasked the government with aligning the country's business standards with those of the OECD. In an interview with New Time, Lecomte noted that while progress has been made, further improvements are needed, particularly in ensuring fair competition between state-owned enterprises and private firms.
So, Mr. Lecomte, thank you very much that you agreed to do this interview. It's a pleasure to have you here. So, if you don't mind, let me start with this question. We know that the OECD highlights the importance of facilitation of trade. So, in facilitation in Central Asia. So, my question is, what was Kazakhstan done recently to simplify trade procedures, and what other improvements would you recommend?
Thank you very much for the question. It's also a pleasure to be here. Latest findings of our research on the region suggest that Kazakhstan has made tremendous efforts and improvements in digitalizing trade procedures at the border. This is one. A second area of progress has been a consultation with the private sector and public-private dialogue when adjusting these regulations and the rules. And last and not least, transparency vis-à-vis the private sector again has improved, publicizing in advance updating of the rules, for instance, and the private sector appreciates this because transparency means more predictability. So this is in terms of progress. If I now think in terms of improvements going forward, what we suggest is to continue digitalize further the procedures, and two is something relevant for the region is to harmonize weighting and dimension parameters at the borders for the freight. Basically having the same standard when measuring or weighting the goods that cross the borders. This would be in a nutshell.
Let us talk a little bit about Middle Corridor. How can Middle Corridor connect better Europe and Central Asia? What key infrastructure or policy changes needs to be done to fully unlock its potential?
We've done some research again on realizing the potential of the Middle Corridor in the last years. What we suggest to the region is to work on 4 dimensions. One is to continue integrate in terms of regional trade, to create demand for this corridor. So being a transit region will not be enough to enhance the demand for traffic of goods. So there should be really a process of regional integration, which is, I think, underway. A second direction is to improve trade procedure and trade facilitation, as we just discussed earlier. Third dimension is to upgrade infrastructures, maritime, road, rail, to mobilize also private investments, which is a challenge because it requires the right set of institutions and rules. And last and not least, and this we see also progress in the last years, is about coordinating better among countries. So coordination between agencies, but also coordinating at a more higher level and political level. So this is in a nutshell what we see as a priority for the region to realize the potential of the Middle Corridor.
As you know, nowadays Kazakhstan is trying to diversify its export beyond gas and oil. So my question is, what are the sectors are the most promising ones, and how can OECD's recommendation can help fully as well to support these initiatives?
If I knew, I would invest in these sectors and I would not be working at the OECD, because if I knew which sectors have a high potential, I would probably run a business and try to take advantage of this. But joke aside, what we see at the OECD is not to work necessarily on specific sector. We advise on the framework conditions, business climate, horizontal questions. And what comes to my mind for Kazakhstan is to continue improving the business climate for small and medium firms, and it has improved in the last years, notably via digitalization of procedures for opening businesses, for instance. Something more challenging, and I hope Kazakhstan will work on it, is to improving corporate governance of state-owned enterprises and making sure that there is what we call a level playing field between SOEs and private firms. So everyone is at the same level, and this ensures sound and safe competition among firms. These are towards the engines of economic diversification, making sure businesses can open, grow, maybe even die in a normal way. Now, if I give you my personal opinion on which sectors, I think Kazakhstan being a landlocked country, sectors where there is no distance penalty makes sense. For instance, IT, you can export IT services very easily from Kazakhstan. This can make sense. Another sector where Kazakhstan has experience is the metallurgical sector. You have raw minerals, critical raw minerals, you have metallurgy sector. So maybe thinking of niches in this area could make sense for the future. But this is my personal opinion. This is not OECD view on how Kazakhstan should diversify.
Do you see that the investment climate is getting more favorable for foreign investors in Kazakhstan? Maybe in a time scale like?
We've seen improvements in operational environment for firms. Basically, what I just said about SMEs, life has become easier for small and medium firms, and this is a good news. And one of the drivers of this was the digitalization of procedures. Opening a business has become easy. There have been fewer controls on businesses, notably after COVID or during COVID even. So all this goes into the right direction, but having said that, it's not yet completely perfect. I mentioned competition, I mentioned state-owned enterprises. These are topics that we hope to working on with the government of Kazakhstan in the years to come.